Hello, everyone. I'm Peter Blum. I'm the chair of the Master Plan Committee that has been at work for some 16, 18 months trying to develop a master plan for your consideration and comment today. We have produced a draft, which I hope you have and perhaps have skimmed or read, and we'll eventually get to hearing your comments and suggestions later on during this meeting. First, I want to just call the meeting to order and say that it is being recorded, and I believe it's being simulcast by CTSB. We're going to be available not only now online or through broadcast, but later through CTSB's lookup service. I've got the agenda on the screen in front of you. And we're going to introduce the committee after an initial presentation, and I want to give the committee members each a couple of minutes to describe why they're here, what they've learned, what they think of the draft plan, and any further comments that they want to make. Several of the committee members are absent today because they're occupied with family matters or other things, and I'll explain that later as well. And the purpose of the meeting today is to hear your comments, and that will come last. And when we do that part, we're going to have a moderator, Brooke Healy, who's our staff assistant here in front, is going to stand up at the podium, and she's going to be, well, you know, I thought I really ought to limit everybody to 3 minutes because we were expecting hundreds of people, but maybe we don't really need to do that now that I see the size of the crowd. So anyway, we're still going to have comment later in the meeting. So for now, I'm going to turn it over to CJ Hawes, who's a senior planner from Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. CJ has been our loyal and very helpful staff member below these many months. He has, I think every member of the committee will agree that CJ has heard our sometimes disruptive and loud conversations and arguments and come back 2 weeks later or a month later with a draft proposal that somehow splits it down the middle and makes everybody pretty happy. Over and over again, he did that for us, and he's been very helpful. So, CJ, you want to take it over and do your slide presentation?
I would love to. Let's see if this. Let me bear with me a second. I should have tested to see if I could get this to work, but I think I'm just going to hold on to this. So, is that better? A little bit better? Can we turn it up a little more? How about now? Okay, there we go. Yeah, feel free to, I don't actually have to speak into a mic that often, so if you're having trouble hearing me, feel free to yell at me to get the mic closer to my face. So thank you all for being here today. This is we're not quite done yet, but this is a culmination of as Peter said, 18 months worth of work. And I think I want to start by, I'll try to remember to do this at the end, but I'll likely talk for longer than I've been allotted, so I'll probably forget. But thank you to the committee because, I mean, without their hard work, you know, it's been 18 months of work with at least one monthly meeting. You'll see a slide where we've met at least 23 times so far, and that doesn't include other things that have been going on as well. So they've really committed a lot of time over this project to making sure this was done well and accurately so it's a document that really holds up over the next 10 to 15 years. So I'll start by, let's see. So I'll just give a brief explanation. Some of you, if you joined us last year when we did more of an introductory presentation on what a master plan is, heard a much longer version of this. But just briefly, master plans are documents that communities throughout the country adopt. They're typically land use focused documents. In the case of Massachusetts, it's a plan that is really overseen by the town's planning board. So once this project is wrapped up, it'll eventually get adopted by the planning board. and it's a process that there's no requirement under Mass General Law that a town updates a plan every X number of years, but generally the rule of thumb is, a master plan's lifespan is typically about 10 to 15 years. But a master plan is generally a policy guide to help guide actions, really more focused on municipal operations. So if you've reviewed the plan, you'll see a lot of the focus is the town's economy, land use and zoning, housing, etc. It runs the whole gamut, but historically these documents are largely focused on the physical development of the community and the services that are needed to go along with to ensure residents are well supported by town services. I think I've sort of said some of this, but again, the benefits of a master plan, it's really allows the community, there's always going to be issues that come up that forces a community to be reactive about a situation. But theoretically, a master plan and keeping one up to date allows the community to be proactive about decisions in over the long term. Master plans in Lee over the last, in the Berkshires especially, original master plans were probably adopted in the 50s and 60s in most communities. There's still a few that have never actually adopted a master plan. Lee's first master plan was adopted in 1958, and the subsequent update came in the year 2000. And the interesting thing, if you were to review the 2000 plan versus this draft plan that we're talking about today, is there's still a lot of the common themes. So the challenges might change, demographics might change over time, but a lot of the focus on delivering services remains a pretty consistent theme. So over the last 18 months, this is our second formal public forum related to the master plan. You may have also heard about an open space and recreation plan. That was a companion document to this that also had a number of public meetings on its own, a public forum, and some other forms of public outreach that were done. But in relation to the master plan, we've done these two public forums. We published a community survey just over a year ago. That received over 400 responses. We published an individual business survey that was sent out to hundreds of businesses in the community for their feedback on just generally how they're doing, what their needs are, and maybe trying to help target what are some things the town could be eyeing to do to help them out. So we did this business survey. We had a number of meetings with stakeholders, and when I say stakeholders, that's everything ranging from municipal bodies that serve the town to other not-for-profits and other entities that are providing some of the vital services to the community. And then the master plan committee itself, I say this already, but 23 individual meetings, and over the last 6 or 7 months, that was happening twice a month. So there's been a lot of time spent on this plan. And I'll also mention that, especially early on, a number of those master plan committees, there were guest speakers representing all kinds of different interests and bodies in the community to really talk about what they're working on, what their needs are, ranging from emergency services to the Chamber of Commerce to folks working on housing. So there have been a lot of discussions along those lines as well. Early on, when we started doing public outreach to really hear more from residents, we also posed the question to the master plan committee. You'll hear more about their backgrounds and who they might have been appointed to represent. But from their perspectives, we really asked the question, what are your priorities over the next 10 years? What do we really need to be focusing on to ensure, the best outcome of this plan for the entire community? And some of those themes, I'm not going to read all of these, but, especially one of the overarching things we heard is creating a welcoming environment for residents and businesses, and preserving Lee's small town character. We heard that quite a bit throughout the process. So as far as the public outreach we did directly with residents, what did we learn? So we learned that residents value, again, small town atmosphere, low crime and safety. There was a lot of compliments about the public services provided, but emergency services provided in the community, but also the services coming out of town hall, and that that really the town has an open space and recreation network that is really well used by residents and appreciated. And I'll also mention that last item on the bottom. Centralized location also came up a bit. This community is the heart of the Berkshires, and it's, one of the few communities that, and the only community that really has direct highway access. So those were things that were really viewed as positives for the town moving forward. Residents are concerned with, but we also heard about what residents are concerned with. So PCB cleanup and landfill, we heard that loud and clear at the public forum we had last year. We heard it in survey responses, and we heard it elsewhere. So that was very apparent. Beyond that, though, there were some other things, and there were themes that even going back in the 2000 master plan that were concerns that were being raised that need to be dealt with, and that's decreasing population, not just rising housing costs, which is what I have up there, but also just lack of housing options in the community and available housing in the community, and really attracting young people, whether it's former residents who have family here in town or just new families into the community. How do we go about doing that? So despite the challenges, though, there's really, when you looked at, even especially I was going back through the public forum from last year and looking at all the comments on the opportunities pages. So for those of you that were here, we did a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats exercise, and there were a lot of opportunities, a lot of unique opportunities that were listed by residents. And some of these are pretty clear, such as redevelopment of the Eagle Mill and what that really means for the town moving forward, the eventual construction of the bike path. But then there's some things like that there was a feeling that could really be focused on more, is that Lee could be tapping into the regional tourism economy. And the other issue is, while there's the threat of the lack of housing opportunity is there, that generally there was consensus that the town needs to be doing more to build new housing and housing of all shapes and sizes in the community to really ensure a good quality of life moving forward. We did a lot of talking, listening, but we also looked at actual data, census data, American Community Service data, as to what are the trends, what's the current state of things, but also what's been going on over the last 10, 20, 30 years. So many of you are aware of this, and it looks like it's showing up if you might be able to read that up on the screen, but generally, like just about every community in the Berkshires, population has been declining since about 1970. The county as a whole is at a slightly higher rate, is losing population. Over the last 50 years, the county's lost 20,000. So it's an ongoing trend that is a battle right now for many of our communities, and along with that population loss, it's just worth mentioning that second chart below is that Lee's population is aging. 1990, the median age was 36 years old. In 2020, it's up to 51 years old. So that's a pretty significant swing, and it looks like it may keep trending upwards. If you were to it would have been really difficult to read, but if you haven't reviewed the master plan yet, you'll see a chart where we looked at ages and 5-year groupings, and you'll see that really the groupings aged 40 and up are the ones where there's like larger concentrations of population. 18 and under is one where that is struggling, especially 5 years, children aged 5 years and younger, which is the lowest population group in the town. On that note, we thought we'd highlight schools. We talked a lot about schools and just what we wanted to, what the committee talked a lot about what do we want to say in the master plan. And we thought this was really worth highlighting. So these are two charts pulled out of the plan. But really this boils down to, in 1990, there were 77 births in town. In 2019, there were 27. And that really ties in with this trend that 0 to 5 age group is small, and it will have impacts on the school district. The number of school-age children and enrolled students in Lee Public Schools has decreased, And you'll see the chart on the left, that's overall enrollment. And I don't expect you to absorb all this, but these are in the master plan clearly defined, so you can always go back and look at that. But just trying to show that the overall enrollment in schools is going down. School choice with students coming in has certainly helped stabilize the population to a degree. But you'll see that darker colored portion on the bottom of the left chart. That's those are Lee residents, and it's going downward. Lee residents enrolled in schools, that's the chart on the right, and it's the same since 2003. That's sort of the downward trend. Yellow, that represents choice out students, where the gray at the bottom represents Lee residents who are actually enrolled in the district. And for what it's worth, again, this is a regional trend. Enrollment projections are showing that over the next 10 plus years that we're expected to lose more and more children. So with all of that, and there was a lot more data that went into it, those were two pieces we sort of cut out just to show examples of what you'd see in the master plan if you haven't reviewed it already. But what we heard from residents, from stakeholders, and the data we reviewed really led to the committee developing goals in 8 areas. I am not going to read all of these, but generally what we did is we broke everything down into goals focused on the economy, housing and residential neighborhoods, land use and zoning, open space, recreation and natural resources, transportation, public utilities, community services and facilities, and cultural and historic resources. So if within the plan, sort of what that comes out to is, well, what do the goals mean? So this is just an example of the charts that show up at the end of the master plan document. And this is really a way that's meant to something you can just pull right out of the document and help track, well, what's the progress being made over time, who is on the hook for assisting with implementation of certain goals, the expected, essentially the prioritization of that goal, and identifying specific groups charged with implementation. So this is just an example of one of the pages, and you can see that I pulled out one with housing, but just not to pick out one specific action, but that first action listed, create and appoint members to an affordable housing trust. I'll talk about that a little more later, but really that's going to be an action that's up to the select board and voters. It's essentially something that's created through a bylaw change in creating the trust. And generally that's something that the committee viewed should be done in the next 5 years. And it's something that really doesn't have a cost to the town. And that was the other thing we really want to focus in on, is making sure we had a good mix of items that really shouldn't cost the town anything to implement, while there's also some much more grand and more expensive things as well that are highlighted in here. So things to keep in mind when it comes to master plan implementation. The individual actions and suggestions based on the master plan committee's work, those are suggestions. The key word here is suggestions. This is not a regulatory document. The town isn't required to do any of these things, but these are things that are viewed as what will help. These specific actions within the plan will help these goals be implemented over time. The actions will only be accomplished if the need is persuasive to those tasked with implementation. So even though there's a document that will be adopted by the planning board, going through this, there are many more bodies than the planning board that will need to be involved in order to see the success of this plan. Implementation is only realistic if there are individuals and parties ready to take on the effort, the timing is appropriate, and funding exists to accomplish the task. And it's also just worth noting that there are a number of actions in this document that require structural changes within the town. So I mentioned the Affordable Housing Trust before. There's a recommendation that the town hire a town planner to really help with implementation. And the other example that I just want to call out is the creation of the potential or the evaluation of the creation of a Parks and Recreation Department. So there's some overarching themes in the document, and we really could have picked a number of areas for this, but a lot of the focus has been on housing, the economy, and municipal services and utilities. And the municipal service and utilities are specifically important because using just the joint public safety complex, as an example, there's a number of high dollar items that the town is evaluating that the master plan committee did talk about as part of this, creating this plan. So I'm not going to read all these, but on the housing side, some of the overarching themes are there needs to be more diversity in housing choices. This isn't necessarily just about creating affordable housing or creating market rate housing, but generally there's a need for housing in all shapes and sizes, whether you're trying to serve a single person or a young family or a large family. There's all kinds of housing needs within the community. There's a lot of discussion within the document about zoning changes that'll need to be taken on in order to allow for some of that diversity in housing choice. And again, establishing an affordable housing trust, which was viewed as a great way that CPA funding could theoretically be used by the community to ensure there's a good mix of housing projects moving forward. On the economy side, I'm running a little longer than I would have liked, so I'm going to move a little faster through this. But on the economy side, there was a lot of discussion about how to ensure the Chamber of Commerce is, really well financed and established to be providing greater services to the business community. There's a lot of opportunity there for the Chamber, I think, to be help promoting businesses, marketing businesses, and that was an early discussion where the discussion really focused on how do we get more resources to the Chamber of Commerce to help that. There's a real opportunity when it comes to some of the former mill sites and other underutilized properties in town to work with property owners and partner with them to see successful projects moving forward. And then on the municipal services and utilities side, these are some specific things I pulled out, but are not meant to represent everything. That just, the joint public safety facility, there was a lot of discussion about that. A lot of discussion about what to do about a community center moving forward and how the town can best really move forward with discussing that topic, and the issue of communication. And this isn't something that's necessarily just focused on town hall, but really throughout the community, that there could be a better path forward to making sure residents have a one-stop place to learn about what's going on in relation to decisions town government is making, to special events, to just other organizations working in the community, that there could be a better effort to organize efforts like that. Who will implement this plan? It's really, in the end, it comes down to residents. It comes down to all of you sitting in this room, all of the various public bodies that are listed up on the screen. It's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of patience, a lot of perseverance moving forward in order to see this happen. So next steps, this is the last slide, and I'll be done talking for a little while at least. So what has to happen next? The Master Plan Committee is going to meet again after this meeting. It'll entertain comments that it's heard tonight and discuss how to best, incorporate and address whatever we've heard tonight. We've already received a number of written comments from members of the community, so there'll be a focus on what additional changes we want to make to the plan document, but we're pretty close to the end. Once that is complete, the committee will forward this on to the planning board, and as I mentioned to start, in the end, this is the planning board's document, so they'll be tasked with a final approval of the plan. So with that, I will stop talking. Thank you all.
Thank you, CJ. Is there a stand for that?
Right there on the chair.
Oh, okay. So the next part of the meeting is for the committee members to talk, and those who are present today are arranged at the table, and I'm going to pass the mic down in just a minute for each to take a minute or two to explain several things about themselves and what they've done and what they hope for in the plan. Before I hand it to Sean Renier, I do want to say that my my initial goal on this was based in part on my experience serving as now 6 years on the planning board. during that time, I cannot remember a single time where anybody came into the board and said, here's something that's in the master plan, you should do this. The master plan was last written in 2000, and it's been shelved and, as far as I can tell, inactive during all the time that I've been serving on boards in Lee. And I'm hoping that this master plan has a better future than that one did. Because in order to achieve that, what we need to do is we need to make very clear recommendations about who is going to do what when, who's going to make sure that that happens, or at least check up on whether it happened. But it's not going to work unless the people who are being tasked or requested to do the work, many times it'll be the selectman or the town administrator, unless those people think that they agree with the objective or the task and that it's achievable with the resources that they have. So we've tried to balance all of that and make it reasonable, a little bit forward-looking, not unreasonably forward-looking and crazy, but practicable. And I really hope that those of you who are mentioned in that column that says who will do these things, if any of you is mentioned there, I really hope that you will share your opinion with us later today about whether those objectives are reasonable, practicable, and achievable. Thank you. Now I'll hand it to Sean Renier, and Sean will be the first of several members of the committee who will tell you what they think of this whole business we've been at.
Thank you, Peter. My name's Sean Renier. I sit on the select board, and I think just from my perspective, I helped to get this underway initially a couple of years ago. We put aside some money at town meeting because I recognized that this was something that might be very helpful for the town to help us have a conversation about different things that are going on in town, the direction that we're headed in, and some helpful items to plan to do in the future. So that's kind of how this all got started. And Peter said it pretty well. Hopefully, this document gives us some guidance, but isn't like the Bible as far as exactly what to do. I think that there's a lot of interpretation that can be taken by individual committees and to act in certain ways, and this will help us get there. I also helped on the Open Space and Rec Committee, which is a separate document as part of this one, which I know there's a number of other committee members here that worked on that. So we're just happy to bring this forward for the town, and hopefully we accomplish some things. So with that, Kathy, your turn next.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope I can be heard.
Go ahead, right
Put it,
down.
yes, put it down.
No, right. Yeah, right.
Oh boy, here we go. So yes, I'm Kathy Hall. I'm the chairperson of the Lee Youth Commission, and I co-chair the Open Space and Rec Plan with Mary Breton. And just moving forward, it has been quite challenging, and in many instances we've agreed to disagree on some issues. It's been a long journey, sometimes rough and sometimes very, very smooth, but it's been a long time in coming. We're very pleased with this draft, and we hope that people are continuing to give us comments so that we can upscale whatever needs to be upscaled. I have a few things that I have directed with our committee, but also with CJ and also with Seth concerning the Open Space and Rec Plan. The Open Space and Rec Plan, although it's a part of the master plan, it's really important that the town, if it wants state funding, to have an open space and rec plan. And we were able to get funding in 2016 for our toddler playground because we had upgraded that particular plan. And we're hoping that with things being done, and I did get an email from Seth Jenkins, who is part of the Berkshire Regional Planning Committee, that he's finishing up the public comments, and we'll be sending the document to Melissa Crean for review and comment by the state later this week. If that gets approved, then we will be able to move forward with writing a grant asking for monies to redo the playground at Lee Athletic Field. If you have questions or concerns, please ask me questions when we have the open comments. Thank you. Diane?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Diane Westbeiser, and over the years I have been on the Conservation Commission and the school committee. I'm a longtime resident. I've been here for over 35 years. My great-grandparents, my grandparents, my parents, my mom grew up here, and I did not. My husband and I chose to live here. I feel pretty passionate that this has always been where I wanted to live. So when I was asked if I'd represent just a regular community member, I was really happy to participate. In particular, I use a lot of the open spaces. I like to walk frequently, and so it was a joy to learn more about some plans about the bike trail and looking at our town forests and what we can do to make them better, and looking at the whole community for management of what we already own. So I am just a very pleased community member.
Liliana Ortiz Bermudez. I have been living in Lee for more than 30. Okay, I have been in this town for 33 years and 36 all over the Berkshires. I'm got married here. My children born in this town, grew up. They already gone. They professionals, and I'm very proud as an immigrant to live in Lee and welcome the new immigrants to come to the Berkshires. I never dreamed that we will have too many, and I welcome those newcomers, especially now this year, to move to our town, to make this town as a community that you and ours, we mingle together to get the better community. And this master plan, I just dreamed to have the walking bicycle from Lenoxdale to the downtown. I think it's something that is in my dreams for a long time, and I think we will see it. I also hope all those new immigrants will get residency here in Lee. In my mind, I had more than 25 families that they own houses, and I think we will keep growing. And for the good living on the town, if we can work together, I think it will be a very good community, and this master plan will help all of us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bobby Paley. Working on the master plan, I think, was a treat and a revelation. We who live in Lee have extraordinary assets, and we haven't used them. 87% of our land mass is protected. That other 13%, we have rivers and lakes and land that we own. My suggestion, the master plan suggestion, is that we figure out ways to develop our assets in a way that gives Lee the creativity that the Berkshires has always been known for, but that we've sort of lost in the pandemic. And here's our opportunity to take our mills and our rivers and our lakes and repurpose them, to take the buildings downtown that are underutilized. You know, we're going to have an EMS building, we're going to have Greylock Credit, to have these revitalized, to be a living town. And what I suggest is that we look at ourselves as a place where people and families can come and live and work and play. That's our opportunity, Lee, and we're at a crossroads. If we want to stop grieving about the GE PCBs, then it's time for us to take control of our own assets and start to clean them ourselves and work on them. As you all know, there's lots of new technology that cleans PCBs. The EPA is now looking at that technology, and we're using it in other regions. I believe we should use it here. We're planning to do a biochar microbe test at Columbia Mill to show the EPA and USDA that we can clean that water and that land without 56,000 truckloads. And we can repurpose those buildings. One of the purposes is Greylock, is we're working on 100,000 foot. Greylock is 250,000 feet. Working on a 100,000 foot innovation housing factory. And there, the idea is to bring in manufacturers who are working on 3D housing, working on modular housing, working on how to retrofit buildings. And when we can figure out those prototypes, that factory can actually advance manufacture and produce housing. And then Berkshire County and Lee, Massachusetts has an industry that we can be proud of, one that is at the leading edge of materiality, sustainability, and livability. We can manage to figure out housing for all of us at every price point and make it low cost and high design and desirable for all of us. We've also asked the town, we, Spiritus, and John DeCraker and I, to rezone 44 of the 27 of the 44 acres at Greylock to put in a housing village so that we figure out the prototyping and we can actually advance manufacture and have a village and figure out what our industry can be, how we all play a part of it, how we all play a part in having Bob go back and fishing on the river. Remember, we walked down there and you said, oh, I've never seen it like this? The Housatonic is remarkable. It's ours. Let's get it back in our hands and to use it, to live on it, to swim on it, to walk on it, and to boat on it. That's our opportunity. Let's not waste it.
What she said. Hi, my name is Patrick Rooney. My wife, Mary, and my son Liam and I are new to the area, and we've been very graced to be able to be a part of this process. Peter and CJ have been wonderful, helping to moderate all of the efforts for all of us to get this master plan in place. Being new to it, not having a real handle on all of the issues, but some, I personally feel that as a new resident, this plan is a really strong idea for what can happen and what can go on in the future. So we'll do more to get the bits and pieces together, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Navin. I'm a member of the Conservation Commission. I believe in wise usage of our lands and resources. And this master plan helps us define some of the goals of this. I was also a member of the Open Space Committee as well, and I got to use my planning instincts and my planning degree as well. And I'm glad and fortunate that I was able to experience this, and now hopefully I'll be around for the next time, and I could be a resource that is useful for the town. Thank you.
Why don't you get up when we have public comment? Before moving on to the next item, I want to mention that committee members, many of whom participated quite strongly in the process, but who are not here today. Most of them, I'm not going to tell you why they're not here, but I do want to mention Nico Reska, who is our high school student member. And Nico wrote to me today and said he is unable to come because he is up at Clarkson University on a newly admitted student day. And so he's successfully applied and been admitted to Clarkson University, which I think is a wonderful excuse for not being here today. And the others, I'm not going to give you a reason, but I do want to mention the others who have served on the committee. David Buttery, Gail Ceresia, Susan Stone, Jack Tucker, and Marilyn Wyatt. all of whom have personal or family reasons today not to be here. So the next part of the meeting will be to take comment from you. And there's a microphone here. Okay.
Because I wanted to add to what Nico had written. He says, I want to thank everyone for this opportunity to participate in the Master Plan Committee. Though I felt I had not contributed a lot of you very clearly had an understanding of young interests, so I felt voiced very well. It's really been a unique experience for me that I know not a lot of other people my age have, and for that I'm very grateful. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this town will shape itself in the future. Sincerely, Nico.
Thanks, Kathy. Okay, so there's a microphone here in the alley, and Brooke, would you come up and take this mic? And I plan to have you time for 3 minutes, so why don't we just wave your arms at 5 minutes if anybody has to go on that long? Okay.
There's some refreshment out in the hallway too.
Yeah. Do you want to announce, Bobby? Do you want to announce the refreshments?
You want to let everybody know about the refreshments?
Hi, there's a lot of food outside. Burmese Bowl, a locker room, Triskelly, and Big Y all contributed food today for our pleasures. Please enjoy when we're done with this.
Hello. All right, so I am just going to ask that you introduce yourself, where you live in Lee, so your address, and then if you're affiliated with any businesses, committees, anything you want to identify yourself with, and then you have the floor.
Great. My name's Meg Sanders. I'm at 156 Summer Street, right here in Lee. Also CEO and now former owner of Canna Provisions, because we're now an employee-owned company. So, sure. So at any rate, really, we love Lee. We love the Berkshires. And I have to say, after this particular winter, one of the things that is very top of mind for us is, and I think for the Berkshires in general, is climate change is very real. This is the worst winter we've had. I know many businesses put up the worst numbers they've ever had in December and January of this year. And that's because we didn't have a winter. So the ski traffic, the winter traffic that comes to the Berkshires was fairly non-existent. I think it's the biggest threat to our community and to in particular, our business community that we are facing. And I don't think it's unique to Lee. I don't think it's unique to any one community. And I do believe it is something that needs to be top of mind for all the chambers, One Berkshire, and many other groups that have a vested interest in seeing this community continue to thrive. I know you guys are addressing a lot of it. I love seeing the arts and the music and the ways that we can hopefully invigorate and hopefully just build out some of the great buildings and spaces that we have to create more of a drive to the Berkshires. And we know that arts and music do a lot of that. We know wellness does a lot of that. And at the end of the day, the winter we knew I don't think we're going to have for a long time. And it's a huge concern for us, especially when we think about the Berkshires becoming a 3-season destination down to a 2-season destination. And I quite frankly don't know how a lot of us survive that particular threat. That's what I had to comment on. Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, a lively downtown with businesses that are open every day. Really important. Bravo to Triskel, to Gilbert and Rebecca for coming up and helping support a great previous restaurant, Timothy's, and opening a pizzeria that we know is going to be open every day. But we really need to see more of a encouraged, maybe thoughtful business license process that requires, if you're on Main Street, you need to be open, period. I think that's mission critical. I also think utilizing some of the performance spaces that we have to create more live music opportunities and live performance opportunities. We know that drives people. And maybe even thinking much bigger, really putting some pressure on Tanglewood to use that facility all year round, not just the small buildings and little functions, but really utilizing a huge space that could drive a lot of traffic to our towns and to our inns and to our restaurants. So I think arts and wellness are the key, and obviously the outdoors, finishing the Riverwalk, making sure that we are utilizing some of these great open spaces that we have, and making trails and more three-season hikes available and promoting that. So I think those are kind of my top-of-mind ideas. You know where I stand, Bobby, as do you, Peter, on a cultural district. I'm ready to drive it. I can't lead it. So I really want somebody to help me and be a leader of that. But I'm a good grant writer. I know we can qualify. I've already talked to multiple businesses on how we can qualify, and I'm super passionate that Lee is included in the cultural district times. And I just feel like we're massively left out, and everyone goes everywhere else, and they drive right through us. So we need to get a cultural district, and like I said, I'm very passionate about it. I just can't take it on as a leader.
If we can use your expertise and Sean can mastermind it, let's do it now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of money available.
Talking about it for 24 months, it's time.
Yeah, we got to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone else has any questions, comments, you feel free to come to the microphone. Okay, here, let me give you.
I'll be last.
Oh, you'll be last? Okay.
Hi, Eric Williams. I also live at 156 Summer. I'm COO and also a former owner of Canada Provisions, again, as we're employee-owned now. One of the things that I saw in this master plan and with the demographics and what you touched on today is our aging population. And I think our aging population and our housing stock really go hand in hand, especially as we're looking at seniors being able to stay in their homes or having homes that people can't unload for what they need and they're not using their second or their third floor. I think we really need to be super creative and looking at how we can keep people in their homes or have that be a really clear focus in our drive, in our zoning, in our housing, and anything that we're doing with the planning board. I think it's critically important. I've found since we came here that the sense of community and family is really, really strong. And not having all of the resources to raise a family here, childcare is a really, really big cost in a huge way. And having the ability to have ancillary housing on a property or in-law housing, that kind of thing, I think is really critically important so we can have a new diversity of our population here in Lee, because it is aging. We see where it's going right now, with the average age being 51 to 55 years old. It's going to just keep getting higher. And so we need to make sure that we're having the resources for seniors. And I think a big resource for seniors that I've seen is being in other communities where I've worked and lived is making sure that you can have generational housing, allowing more people or multiple families or subdividing homes so they can stay in families and allow things like childcare and, again, a strong family unit. So that's the one thing I really thought was really important that we focus on with all of the zoning and housing changes out there. Thank you.
Eric, thanks. I just wanted to tell you, in case you didn't know, that the town recently approved an accessory dwelling unit bylaw change, and we now allow accessory dwelling units, which are second dwellings on a single lot. They can be either in the main building, or they can be separately set out in the backyard or on the side yard, and they require a permit from the planning board. But I don't know, we've had it in effect for a little while. I don't know, it was just approved actually by the Attorney General, but there haven't been any applications yet. But I do want to publicize that we've tried to anticipate at least part of your concern.
Well, kudos. I think that's really important. So thanks for doing that.
Tried to get close and got too close. Hi, I'm Valerie Blum, and I just wanted to address Meg's concern. I'm on the Lee Cultural Council. We would dearly love to have Lee be a cultural district, but the Mass Cultural Council has certain criteria, including a permanent performance space and a permanent place for artwork to be displayed. And I'm not sure that the Lee Library, lovely little room, counts. Just wanted you to know, it's not just something that Lee can decide to do. We need to. Sure. Okay. And we'd love to have any other people who are interested in joining the Cultural Council do so. We have to have 5 minimum, and we only have 6 right now. So that's the other thing.
There's a fellow in town named Peter Hoffman who many of you know. He's a professional planner and worked in another state for a good part of his life. And he has, to my knowledge, been one of 2 people who's read all the way through this plan. Maybe some of you are also in that category. But Peter submitted some comments, and I told him I would read them. But Peter, I'm not going to read all of them because they're 5 pages. But they're very thoughtful, and they reflect a careful reading and a lot of experience. So I'll just give you some highlights. On page 14, he mentions that the increasing age of Lee residents, which is illustrated through 2020 data, will likely continue. He wonders to what extent the committee considered that as justification for possibly expanding facilities for older residents so they can stay in Lee. This trend might drive a need for more affordable housing, he says. On page 29, he notes that the plan observes that the availability of telecommuting from home is among the factors stressing the housing market. Implied but unsaid is that the Berkshires, including Lee, appears to be attractive places to live, provided there are sufficient employment opportunities or high-speed internet for working remotely. Another factor not yet present could be the migration from climate change impacts. Organizations have been established around the country, for example in Michigan, to examine and address this potential migration. Might the Berkshires and Lee in particular explore this and develop a strategy to attract new residents and promote housing developments that could accommodate them? He mentions that he knows that the town is developing a separate recreation and open space plan. He suggests that we should add boating to the lists of recreational activities and should place more emphasis on maintaining and enhancing wildlife and habitat and corridors. He says the challenge with splitting plans up in this way, and he understands that we have no choice, is that certain items might fall through the cracks. Wildlife habitat should not be one of them. And I have one more that I'm going to read. On page 38, he says the last sentence says that state construction funds for a section of the bike path, quote, are expected to be available in future years, end quote. I understand that the town is quite frustrated about the state's repeatedly postponing funding. I had heard that in the most recent meeting bike path committee members had with DOT representatives, we were told that the path would be included in the 2026 state plan, although I could be wrong. I wonder if the plan should be more aggressive about advocating for funding in the next few years. Perhaps this issue is addressed in the open space and recreation plan. So this will probably be one of the things that our committee talks about at our next meeting, from all appearances. And there's a few more pages. Anybody who wants to get the full comment, I'll be glad to share it with you, but I don't want to take your time now to read everything. Some of them are just quite technical corrections. Thank you.
Diane, go ahead. But I just wanted to make one brief comment. So typically I'm long-winded and go way beyond time limits I'm given to speak. So I cut myself a little short, even though I think I stayed on track. But one of the things I wanted to point out as part of my concluding remarks that I didn't was that we could have, when you look at master plans in other communities, some communities have hundreds of action items listed in their master plans. We made a real concerted effort to have a manageable list of actions that even with a town planner, could theoretically be implemented over 10 to 15 years. And we still ended up with a list of over 100 actions. So there are a lot of actions we left on the cutting room floor in order to try to keep this as condensed as possible and manageable for the community. And I think Peter's comments that he just read reflect some of the other comments we've written about things that could have been in the plan. And in the end, we really, the text as well, tried to make this could have been easily a 200-page document, and we kept it to about 80 pages. So we've really tried to keep this as something manageable that someone could, even at 80 pages, pick up and read and understand what's going on in the community.
Hi, I'm going to read some comments from Greg Bergenti, who is our high school, middle school principal. He did give us some corrections concerning that we actually belong to a union. The school belongs to the Lee Otis Sandusville Terringham Union. You can't hear me? All right, try again. The other correction was there's a incorrect enrollment. So the Lee School District is projected to decline in enrollment to 449 students by 2023. The year should be 2034. And also in the master plan, there is a statement about pursue opportunities to partner with St. Mary's School in sports, extracurricular activities, and other mutually beneficial services. Mr. Bergenti states we are not allowed under MIAA rules to partner with St. Mary's School for interscholastic athletics. He also goes on to talk about merging with partners, which in the master plan, we have a statement about encouraging the school district to look at it in case our enrollment continues to decline. And he points out that currently one of our neighboring districts, Berkshire Hills Regional School District, spends $26,000 per student per year, and we currently spend $20,500 per student per year. So he's forecasting that it would be more expensive for the district. All right, let's see what else he's got. Talks about the school choice students. On average, there are 11 school choice students per grade. This number is not enough for a full teacher at any grade level to be eliminated, I think is his point. He addresses that there have been several staff reductions over the past few years. Over the past 10 years, they've lost a district technology director, a technology specialist, a science teacher, a school librarian, and goes on to say that, in short, they've been taking steps to right-size the staff because there is a lot of concern in the master plan and among the community about providing the best education for the students of Lee and what that might look like in the future. So that's, again, from Mr. Bergenti.
Okay, again, I'm Kathy Hall, and I have my own comments here. So first of all, just to let you know that Lee Youth Association does have a daycare center, and it's absolutely beautiful. And they do a magnificent job. They do have a curriculum even for the little babies, and it's wonderful. And I forgot the page number, 45 or somewhere in the master plan about St. Mary's School, I would like to see it include not just their program that they're enrolled in, but that they're accredited in, but that it reflects the requirements of the Lee Public Schools, including core curriculum, modern language, computer science, art, etc. we have a magnificent school system here in Lee, Massachusetts. So it's the Lee Public Schools, St. Mary's School, and the Busy Bee School, and the daycare at Lee Youth Association. Thank you. Oh, and one more thing. When Diane was reading the comments from Greg Bergenti, it mentioned that we're a school district, but it had to be corrected that it's just Lee and Tyringham. Okay, no, Otis and Sandusfield are not part of our school district. Thank you.
For those of you who walked in after we already started public comment, if anybody has any comments, questions, please feel free to go up to the mic. Just please state your name, address, and then any affiliations you would want to have on record for the town, organizations, businesses, etc. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bobby Paley. I live at 170 Stockbridge Road. In the master plan, we also discussed services for town and new facilities. As you know, we're getting a new EMS facility downtown. We're also looking Lee has spent about $50,000 in a couple of plans to look at where to put a community center. As we were discussing it in committee, it became opportunistic to look at Columbia Mill. And Columbia Mill has that beautiful red brick building right down by the Housatonic. So we think that might be a very good place to put a community center. And then I was having tea recently with Jenny Hansel, who runs Berkshire National Resource Council. And she said, oh, if you have a community center there, our lease is up in a couple of years. Could we look at it to have our nonprofit there? So I think that there's an opportunity for us to look at our assets, bring in more people to fill our schools and our businesses and jobs and so forth, but also to create a juicier town where there's more connectivity. And so we're going to pursue how we could put together that red brick building for a Lee Community Center and perhaps some other nonprofits to create a real destination for us. And many of you have heard me say there's no place to gather. Well, we could put in a little fab lab there for coffee and other things, and everybody would want to gather. So it's our turn, Lee. It's our turn to take back our assets. It's our turn to make them wonderful. It's our turn to live here, to work here, to play here, and to bring our friends, our families, and everybody else we can garner.
Anyone else?
Is the committee going first? No. Feel free. I'm sorry. I'm Cornelia Kalish. I'm a resident of Lee, and I'm sorry for not being here for the presentation. Instead, I chose to read the whole thing word by word and to write a whole document. So I don't know if I should read the whole document now, but I will try, and if it's too long, cut me off, okay? I will submit it also. Could you summarize it? I can't really. So I'll start. Dear Lee Master Plan Committee, Peter Blum. I appreciate your work on the Lee Master Plan. Here are areas to still include in areas of concern that I have as a Lee resident and taxpayer. Thank you for allowing the public comment period so that these areas can be addressed and included in the master plan. Cornelia Kalisher. So I went by pages of things that I felt were important. On page 12, the PCB toxic upland, I put toxic, upland facility should be included to give a full picture of the impact of this project on the town of Lee for many years over the life of the master plan. You know, it's included in the plan, but it's not really set in the history and how the town will be. So, page 37. This is just a little correction. The Silverleaf conservation restriction is 207 acres, not 205 acres. Please correct this. I have a question on the same page. Silverleaf DBA Oak and Spruce Resorts is listed under not protected from development. However, the 207 acres is protected land under the permanent conservation restriction. Page 43, I wonder why certain towns' tax rates were not included as like Stockbridge. Please include all neighboring towns. That was really striking to me, that Great Barrington was there, and Dalton and Adams, but not Stockbridge or other towns locally connected to Lee. Page 44 and 45, it is alarming that now this might be corrected as you corrected just now, so that 47% of the budget goes to the school system with only 438 students, perhaps with a correction, from Lee, and 155 students choosing to go to other schools. I'm pleased that in the plan there is finally some consideration for making a planned delineation of a threshold, and school consolidation across towns is a possibility. A Sears plan needs to be developed to help reduce the focus of such allotment of our taxes to a declining population of children in Lee. Sorry. Page 64 and 68. In regards to the PCB, now I'm not doing a whole PCB spiel, but just a little bit. In regards to the PCB removal, transportation, storage, there needs to be more emphasis on having a hired expert to assist the work of Select Board, Board of Health, and residents of Lee. The long-term impact of the health and well-being of the residents, the impact on the town's infrastructure and standing in the Berkshires needs major attention, planning, and resources. Special attention needs to be given to ensuring the protection of our natural water resource of water from October Mountain and the school lake. I realize that the use of consultants is included, but perhaps a consistent expert or team should be included as necessary to help protect us over the years to come. The funds allocated as part of GE's settlement agreement need to be mentioned as a plan for Lee residents' input, which is the plan, but I think it should be in the master plan. Page 65, Parks and Recreation, Laurel Lake, page 31, drawdown, etc. The nature of the lake has been changing. There are more weeds, and the condition of the lake is not as pleasant. I love the lake. It's very important to me in swimming in the summer and for many residents. But while I do not want chemicals to be implemented, the importance of the lake to the vitality of the town is crucial. The issue of accessible beach access continues to be a concern to Lee residents. Page 59. I feel that you should add to the master plan the need for natural screening to be part of planning on larger projects that impact the natural beauty of the Berkshires. Also, as part of the large projects, a portion of the plan should include a portion of the property be put into a conservation restriction and open green space plan. So for instance, like on Route 102, like the cannabis building has no screening in front, it's just these buildings, and it just, if you're coming into Lee and the Berkshires, it just doesn't give a good feel. So that trees and plantings should always be considered, in my opinion. Page 68. There is mention of an alternate truck route. What are the areas being considered? And I feel that there should be townwide public input. Page 68. Thank you for including my concern, because this was one of mine, about engine braking. The use of Jake brakes have changed the peaceful nature of the town. I used to hear the sound of nature at my home, and now I hear the sound of trucks from Route 102 and the Mass Pike. The impact of noise pollution on the town needs to have more planning, enforcement. Implementing signs is a good start, but perhaps sound, fencing, or other alternatives should be considered. Page 70, Community Center. We already have done surveys. I hope we do not do another one. I also hope that Berkshire South as a resource is included, and perhaps transportation there for those who need it be considered. Page 71, in assessing the needs in regards to the high school, the reports that the school committee is the main overseer of this, is the main overseer of this, but perhaps other committees should also be involved. Page 71, youth, has a place in the master plan. In the beginning pages, the aging population in Lee is noted, but I do not see a plan for the aging population other than Crossway Village on page 41. I feel more planning should be included. Page 74, I think the town of Lee should not only evaluate the impacts on the floodplain, but also include a statement about making a plan. So instead of just evaluating, but having a plan. Page 77, CTSB is a vital resource for our town and local community. How will we help to preserve this? Again, thank you for all your work. I hope my comments help with your finalizing this master plan and that the master plan is actually used. As in the past, I feel it hasn't been referred to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Dave Forrest, 660 Greylock Street, which is across the street from the Greylock Mill. I'm glad you people were, you've considered what we can do with that. I've been preaching to the choir ever since they closed the doors. Please do something. We have to before it falls down and looks like the Mountain Mill. Okay? I am on the planning board, and also I'm the chairman of the Board of Public Works. And I thank all you people for volunteering your time. You made it a whole bunch easier for the planning board to move ahead with this plan. And again, I thank you. It's nice to see new faces. Some of you aren't new faces, but more faces volunteering their time. Through my time, as I say, I've given a lot of time to the town. I've lived here all my life, and I'll probably continue on until somebody sends me home, like Chris. But again, thank you very much for your work. It's much appreciated.
How you doing, Buck Donovan, current chair of the planning board. Thank you, guys. This is really an incredible document. We've been getting regular updates. I'm looking forward to it. Your action list, we got a lot of work. So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Chris Britton, Town Administrator. I also, just to echo what Buck and Dave said, thank you very much to the committee. I know that myself and the select board members have very similar goals for the town, and we're really glad to see this plan come together. I'm also happy to report that we have a number of items that are already getting started that's been mentioned in the plan. I think the biggest of which is we do have a town planner in the budget for FY25, so we're hoping that will begin, so we have somebody that can follow this document and help execute some of the items that you listed here. We have a number of other things that we've kind of started the ball rolling on as well. People had mentioned climate change. We are about 3/4 of the way through our climate adaptation plan. We have a committee. I see a couple members here today that are on that are helping to work on that climate plan. As many of you know, we're well in progress for the planning of public safety. We have, I've been to several CDC meetings where they're talking about options for including more housing in that, and affordable housing trust. We also have a new CPA committee that started just over a year ago that has already helped to preserve more open space. So a bunch of things going on, and we hope to continue what this committee started. So thank you guys very much.
Well, thank you all. If Chris is the last, I'll pause for a moment and see if anybody else wants to come up. Thank you all very much. My plan was that we would take input from this meeting, have one more meeting, and then disband the master plan committee. I don't know if that's practicable now. We got a lot of feedback and a lot of suggestions that I think are going to take some processing. So we're going to have another meeting in a couple of weeks. It might be the last meeting, but it might not. So I'm sorry to keep delaying.
You mentioned that the comments are still open. We're still taking comments.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. We're still taking comments really until we take a final vote to send it on to the planning board. And then if Buck will allow me to speak for the planning board will still be open for comments beginning then. So, Cornelia, did you want to say something?
When would the vote be?
Well, I haven't scheduled the meeting, but the most optimistic thing would be a meeting in a couple of weeks with a final vote to send it to the planning board, probably on a Monday. We seem to have most success meeting on Mondays. Chris?
I did have one other thing. I know there were a few comments about a PCB and river cleanup. For those of you who don't know, we just recently had our first meeting this past Tuesday for a new PCB advisory committee for the town, which does include a paid consultant as well that we've hired, and we have received a DEP TAG grant to help fund that as well. So that's a technical assistant grant from Mass DEP. A couple of members of the committee are here, but they'll be meeting regularly now, and wanted to mention that because I know there were some comments about it. That grant was for $20,000, which is just seed money to kind of get it started. There will be some money put aside for further technical consulting. That's mostly going to help write what the EPA calls a QAP, which is a plan that will help us do our own oversight and monitoring with our technical consultants. So just wanted to mention that. Thanks.
Well, thank you once again for coming and sharing your opinions and learning about the master plan process. The meeting is adjourned.